Welcome to another episode of Coda Conversations. Today, we have special guest Curtis Dewayne White. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Kevin. Nice to finally meet, man, and thanks for introducing me and inviting me to the show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It seems like you're doing a lot of great things. Can you give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I kind of started in graphic design. I was a young kid that used to draw on everything, and just coming up, my stepdad kind of saw that I was very heavy in designing and graphics and drawing, and he pointed me in the direction of graphics, and that led to learning how to build websites and eventually now app development.
Okay, so you went from graphic design, and did you teach yourself programming?
Sort of. As far as programming goes, I lean very heavy on platforms like Code Academy, which I always try to tell people about because it helped me learn CSS and HTML very well. And then, of course, trial and error, starting with Wix.com, and then using Sublime Text 2 to learn from scratch and literally push it directly to the net. So Code Academy and Lynda.com, and then of course I did a lot of cheating on YouTube.
Right. Yep. So, I see that you have the CEO in your title. How did those two fields like lead to you starting your own company?
When I had my last major development job, I was actually hired as the graphic designer. But I was always telling my boss about what the future holds and about social media and about things that when I went to sleep and woke up, I had these dreams and thoughts about. And he was just like, well, our clients are looking for somebody to build websites, could you learn that skill? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it was just going to take a lot more time and a little bit more money. And so my boss bought me a brand new computer.
Wow.
And that was the motivation enough for me to get very heavy into learning how to build websites. And I took that energy and I don't know, it just inspired me to be like, if I can come up with these ideas, then I can probably build a company and have my ideas be sold and purchased and interesting enough to be invested in. And so I don't know, I guess it's a thing of I had the courage first.
Mm-hmm.
And after you have the courage, then you have the will and the passion for what you're trying to build. And then it just goes from there. So I would love to be working at some major corporate office, but Kevin, as you know, man, it's an amazing feeling to be your own entrepreneur, to be your own boss.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit about the application that you built?
Yeah. So as I was saying a second ago, just working in IT, I started to see platforms like Facebook because I was on Facebook in 2005. We actually were told by our teacher to download, or not download, but go to the website to sign up to Facebook because he wanted us to turn in our homework on Facebook. So the Facebook that people know and love today, it wasn't what it was, 10, 10 plus years ago. It was a platform for college students to engage with each other and turn in homework and do things of that nature. And so I was inspired back then, right? I was sort of popular, doing a lot of party promotion and club promoting. And so mixing that life of party promoting with an online site to where you can meet individuals and get to know people and what they can provide and what they can do. It's
Mm-hmm.
always been, kind of sort of top of mind, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So as the years went on, platforms like Periscope, Instagram, Vine, 2012, 2011, 2013, the interest just grew because, Instagram was literally what I had in mind. But, they just had the money at the time first
Right.
to build that type of platform. So when I came to the thought process of Postablur, my cousin he had asked me to help him with his book, because he wrote a book, and the book got very popular, but we wasn't making any money. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, wait, let's utilize social media to make this book popular and to make you popular. And my cousin was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be posting private family photos on the social network. Lo and behold, that's what everybody do today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Kevin, for me, it was always a thing of, I saw that, but I just didn't have the manpower or the money to capitalize on it. So building Postablur, that's what it's built off of. The option or the idea of connecting with your community or people that have or share the same interests as you, that want to support you. But on Postablur, they're doing it in a monetary way. So, yeah. And so you can't really do that on Instagram, because Instagram is a business for itself, right?
Right.
They really make money off of advertising dollars, just like YouTube. I know you probably use YouTube. A lot of your listeners probably use YouTube, but it's mostly geared for the company itself to earn money,
right.
not necessarily the creators creating on the platform.
So your app really helps the creators get their fair share.
Right, because Kevin, a lot of people say they're not creators, but I think everyone is, because the moment that you jump on the same app that I'm on and you like my posts, that's a creation. It might not be creating of a post, but it's a creation of an engagement point.
Yeah.
And the more of those engagement points happening, then you can go to advertising and say, look, 1,000 people liked Kevin's picture, right? So now to say, look, I get 1,000 people to like my picture. Y'all should pay me to promote y'all stuff and get 1,000 people to like your picture with your stuff. And so it just started creating these funnels of engagement, which led to funnels of sales. And now you have platforms like TikTok, where some of the people on there solely go on there to find products. So what Postablur is, and where we're focused on, is the content creation in and of itself. Kevin might, buy, a bike, or Kevin might be into flying jets. Whatever that content Kevin wants to create and share, we believe at Postablur that Kevin should set the value of that content. So anybody downloading Postablur or using Postablur, they set the value of the content, not us. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Is Postablur kind of like a social network? So I just like sign up and start posting and set the value of my content, or how does that work?
So with Postablur, you basically, you sign up. It's its own social network. You can take a photo, audio, video, or text post, and after creating whatever you create or upload, you can set the value. The value could be 10 likes, 100 likes, up to 1 million likes. And essentially, that setting that goal is what makes the post or the picture blurred. So if you set the goal of 10 likes, your photo is now blurred because you set the goal of 10 people needing to like this picture in order to reveal the post. So that's the basis of it.
Okay, yeah, definitely sounds interesting. Can you tell us about some of the success stories on the platform?
Yeah, I mean, some of the main things that I've had, I guess, that are successful is I got a couple celebrities on it. James Harden is on it. Um, um, I even got Zion Williamson to download it and check it out as well. But I guess the only major success that I would kind of capitalize as a major success is we launched about a month ago or so, and we've gotten over 1,000 downloads in 10 different countries.
Oh, wow.
Now that, Kevin, I can't even explain to you because I don't market in other countries. Like I don't have a marketing budget for other countries. So for the fact that it's been shared and talked about to other individuals in other countries and they've downloaded it, Kevin, it's remarkable.
Yeah, if you got a good product, it seems like people will find it somehow.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we're just getting started, but um, to even say that to you means so much to me because you never think somebody in a whole other country with a whole other background would utilize something you built.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know like there's a big divergence between like simply building an app and then actually putting on an app store and putting the marketing behind it and making a viable product. How did you get it from like the development stage to an actual product that people can download? And what were like some of the challenges you faced?
Oh man, I love that question. Um, the biggest thing I guess that I can say with the challenges is always having the capital to hire people or work with people um, that you kind of see the vision. Um, you know, Typically when you hire developers, you're hiring more or less for a skill,
Yeah.
right? Can you do these tasks and can you do it in time to where if a bug or any issues come up, we can fix it and still be on time to launch a release. So that's the first problem. The second problem that always kind of comes up is money, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you find somebody that have the skill, then you also need to pay them a wage that they're happy with so that they're, kind of like excited about getting to work because, um, you know, people enjoy being compensated for the things that they do. And a lot of people don't think that developers have that same type of ingenuity, but they do. Developers want to be paid and they want to feel like they're making a difference with whatever they're building. And so it's not always just about the money for them, but being the CEO and founder of a business, you always want to make sure that someone that's working for you is happy with what they're being paid. Um,
Absolutely.
and so that's one of the other big challenges. I didn't even know about that, Kevin. I just thought, hey man, I got this great idea. You need to help me. And I didn't think, well, do they even care about what you're building? Because if they don't, they're just going to be working for your money. And then as soon as they're done, that's it. They're not going to give you extra advice or say, hey, Curtis, you should be looking forward to this or this might pop up. They're not going to give you the extra things that you might not be aware of. But they're going to only do the task and then they're going to be out. So
Right.
that's one of the toughest things um, dealing with building something. And as I said before, Kevin, I didn't know that, right? You don't know that. When you're raising funds, you're thinking, oh, I just need the money because I can just hire some people. But it becomes a learning thing of I need to hire the right people.
Yep.
Yeah, people that actually care about what we're building and what I'm hiring them to work on. So, in short, um, those are some of the challenges. And the other challenge is sometimes you might have to go overseas to find development just because of cost.
Yep.
I've raised some money, but the money that I raised, I began to learn that it can be burned very fast. And for all your listeners, if they have a business and it's in tech, they know that money could be raised and it could be burned very fast. So it's very important to utilize the money in the most intelligent, most effective way possible. And that's something that I learned.
Absolutely. So somebody that's just starting their own application, how do they get the funding in the first place? And you mentioned they can burn through it really quickly. So what are some of the things they need to watch out for so they don't waste their money?
Right. So I love that question. One of the first things that I would probably say is you need to kind of do a lot of research on whatever your product is. If it's a tech-based product or software as a service, or if it's CPG, um, um, you have to know like the sales strategy, the marketing strategy, what benefits your product or technology has over a similar product and technology. It's kind of like what they say in real estate. You got to know your comps. And comps simply mean your comparatives. What comparison does another product have towards yours that makes yours better, faster, quicker, more efficient than another person's product? Um, and the moment that you learn those things and you know those things, then you need to find out ways of building what you're building and keeping costs very low before you hire a developer or before you hire somebody like an industrial engineer to create your product or service or product, essentially. Um, so I would definitely advise anyone of your listeners that is building a business, try to learn what things you can do that are free before you try to hire somebody to do something for you.
Got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned hiring the right people is very important. Is there anything, any traits you look at to be able to identify the right person versus the wrong person?
Yes, 100%. The first trait you need to look for is, does this person feel passionate about what you feel passionate about? Right? Like, I would never go and try to hire a developer who's created a bunch of or mostly had jobs in the healthcare space and tell him, hey, I need you to come and work on this social media commerce app, right? If he's never built anything in the healthcare space as it pertains to commerce, banking, if he's never used Stripe or Stripe Connect, or even PayPal, in anything that he's built, then how would that person help me? It just wouldn't be a match. And so the first thing you do whenever you're creating business, you need to try to go around, be around, network with people that are in your business line. So if you're in healthcare, any and everybody you talk to every day need to be in healthcare. If you're in finance, any and everybody you hang out with and talk to need to be in finance, and so on and so forth. Because it's good to get perspectives from other industries, but those people in those other industries don't necessarily help you hire in your particular industry.
Yep, that definitely makes sense. So you mentioned earlier you got a couple of like basketball players like James Harden and Zion Williams on there. How did you go about like getting them to join your platform?
Well, so I have have this really, really huge neck for following people that are in media or social media. And once upon a time, James Harden was very much so on Twitter and tweeting a lot. And so usually what I would do is I would just follow him. You know, whenever he tweets something, I was one of the first two people to get the notification and comment and just to follow, you know. And being that, you know, I live in Dallas, I have access to Houston by just, you know, 3 or 4 hours driving down there, going to a game or going to an event that he's promoting. And so I found out that James Harden does this yearly basketball camp. And a friend of mine was like, hey, man, James Harden, he's actually going to be at this camp. So you might want to try to see if you can get a meeting and come through and speak to him. And sure enough, I found his information and I reached out to his business partner. And his business partner said, yeah, man, we'll be in Houston at the camp. He'll be live and in person for the camp. And I was like, cool. So I grabbed one of my friends who had a son, because I don't have any kids. I grabbed one of my friends who had a young son, and I was like, look, I'll pay for whatever y'all need. I just need y'all to go down here with me to this James Harden basketball camp. Signed up to the camp and everything, man. It was fabulous, by the way. But when I was there, I ran into the business partner that I spoke to, and he was like, yeah, man, let's have a meeting in the back. And believe it or not, him, his mom, and his two business partners came to the back, and they met with me for 20 minutes. And so I showed them Postablur and tried to pitch them to invest. And he didn't make an investment right at that time because we were literally brand new. And it was just an idea, more or less. But he said, you know, I'll try to support you, you know. And so years later, roughly his middle last year, I reached out and I said, hey guys, you know, the app is available. I would love for you to download it and check it out. And the business partner sent it to James, and him and the business partner jumped on the app.
Wow. Yeah. It seems like there's an amazing amount of power just through social media, being able to reach people we normally wouldn't be able to meet.
Yeah. It's like I was saying earlier too, it's all about the passion. Most people just talk about it. I'm trying to be about it.
Exactly. Like, you know, honestly, in the African American community, there's not like a lot of mentors. There's not a lot of business owners. What gave you that drive and passion to start your own business? And did you have a mentor?
I not specifically have a mentor. What gave me the drive and passion is kind of like I was mentioning earlier about my cousin. My cousin, he's very passionate about business. He's been in corporate America for a long time, but he was very passionate about business and starting his own business, and learning from him and what I saw him go through, that made me interested in business. So a lot of times you have to have it in your surroundings. And there's been a Black young man, most of us don't have business people in our lives doing business. Notice I said my cousin was still working this entire time. He still had a full-time job. But even with his full-time job, he was still pursuing his own business. And so for me, I just learned through him that it's possible to do both. But for me, I just I don't know, my passion for social media and the possibilities, you know, it just kind of grew and grew. And then it came to a point where like companies like Meerkat, who launched at South by Southwest, who got bought for 150 million, Periscope. When these companies started getting bought, and it was hundreds of millions of dollars, Instagram, $1 billion from Facebook. I remember Snapchat got offered by Google $4 billion. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I need to create a social network because that's the only way.
Absolutely.
That's the only way I would get the big check. And so, having a job is very, very important because sometimes jobs can help you have that extra money to try different things. But also, if you are very passionate about what you're passionate about, like I was about social media, because I saw it come from nothing. I was on Face. I was on Friendster, trying to get people to come to the club. Because remember, I told you I was a club promoter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I literally used the platforms and using Facebook to turn in my homework. So I know where they come from, and I know how valuable they are today. And so that's what made me decide Postablur was something that I can build, and yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, man, I definitely feel like, a lot of times we use our energy, bringing people to other people's platform and making them rich. You know what I mean? So why not take that same effort and drive it into your own application?
Yeah. I mean, for us, especially as a culture, I love what all races of people do with their capabilities with creating platforms that work for them, by them. But it's kind of like the same thing for us. We have buying power. There are a lot of things that I think our background, our culture, we kind of promote some things and make things very popular, but we don't get credit for those things when they get sold.
Yeah.
And for me, Kevin, that's the other motivator that drives my passion. It's not just to be on something and be popular on something and generate money for being on something, but it's also building something and being an owner of that something. So that at the inflection point of when that thing is bought or sold, I capitalize in that part of it as well. And so we are very easy to jump on a platform and make a platform more valuable. But when is it going to be a day when we are the ones that are creating the narrative and also owning the narrative that we create?
Absolutely. So like, okay, so somebody's on their job right now. We got a question from the audience from Joseph Walker. So
Okay.
like he's working on his job right now. He wants to start his own business. What are some ways that you can raise funds for startup capital outside of your job income? Like, would you suggest going to a bank for debt capital, or maybe raising money with investors in exchange for equity?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I just kind of had this conversation earlier today. I love this question. What I would say to you said Joseph, right? What I would say to Joseph is Joseph has to definitely know what his business is and what's the potential of the most important thing to a potential investor, and that is ROI. How are you going to return my money to me and then some if I give you money, right? And so the more that Joseph knows the answer to that question, the better he would be in raising funds. What I knew about Postablur and social media is all of it eventually goes to advertisers. And the reason why Facebook and Instagram and all these platforms are worth billions of dollars is because of the engagement that was being driven from, each one reaching one to brands going to the platform and saying, hey, y'all have 10 million people on this platform? Okay, well, we will pay y'all X amount of money to introduce us to these 10 million people that log into this platform every single day. So for me, building Postablur, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, okay, so I just need to build a community of creators or individuals on the platform, and then the money would come. So I knew that I can go and take that information to an investor and say to the investor, hey, investor, I'm going to build an app. It's called Postablur. It's going to create these many people creating content. And at some point, the brands are going to come and want to be involved in our community. And that money that those brands come, because they all have a marketing budget that they have to spend every year, I'm going to take some of that marketing budget, and that marketing budget is going to funnel and fuel the growth of our platform. And so that then to an investor is, oh, wow. So he's going to make money eventually from brands coming to bring the money to be a part of our platform. So that's something Joseph has to know. Now, if he's building a product, of course, there's product statistics, like how many people would use your product, what is the margins between how much a product costs to make versus how much you can charge a person to buy your product. That's a little bit different. And those numbers are easy to obtain and understand. So again, Joseph has to understand what those numbers are and how he can return that investment back to an investor. And so that should drive him, that information should drive him to then go and say, okay, I'm going to approach these guys, family or friends, to get started. And then I can go to platforms like mogulmillennial.com. So that's something you can share with them. Go to mogulmillennial.com. That website produces information for grants, which is free money for small businesses, pitch competitions to raise funds, and angel investors looking to invest in companies. So once you know the ROI, yes, exactly, yes. Once you know the ROI, then it's game on.
Yeah, some powerful knowledge there. So we were talking earlier, and you actually pitched your idea to Shark Tank. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I did it twice. The first time was very interesting because I went with a friend of mine, and we drove 18 hours nonstop to Detroit. Kevin, this was probably about 7 years ago. So if you think I'm passionate now, you can only imagine how passionate I was 7 years ago about posting. I thought it was the greatest platform on the history of ever. And so I drove to pitch it and didn't make it past the first round, unfortunately. Second time I did it was about maybe 4 years ago. And I made it to the second round, whereas on the second round, you have to create a demo video introducing yourself, your team, and the product. And so didn't make it to the third round, but that experience that I got, it was amazing because Shark Tank is such a huge platform, 9 million to 15 million views every Friday. So it's a large audience that is seeing your product and seeing you pitch the sharks.
Absolutely. Joseph has another follow-up question. He says, if you do suggest a route of raising funds versus going to the banks, how much equity would you recommend giving of your company?
See, I love that question. That's another question about research, right? Like, Kevin, if you're building a company, you have to do deep research on what your product is, what's the return on investment for that product, and what some other people have done regarding equity in that business. So you have on glasses. If you were starting a glassware company, you have to just do the research on, how much equity was given away to raise X amount of dollars, or you can do a value prop. I know that my glasses or my frames are the only type of frames in the market. There's no other frames like these. There's no other glasses like these. So then you can say to the investor, hey, investor, this is a first of its kind. You then could set the value of, I believe you should give me $1 million for 10% equity because I'm going to return X amount of money to you because this product is a first of its kind. Now, if it's not a first of its kind, you then just have to do the research. How many people have successfully raised money via this product or via this service? And then maybe reach out to some of the people. Hey, when you guys were growing, how much equity did you guys give away in order to get to the next stage? Don't be afraid as an entrepreneur to ask other entrepreneurs very detailed questions. Either they're going to give it to you or they're not. But if they know that you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to grow as well, they might. Just kind of how I'm sharing detailed information. It's, to me, all about research. Information is out there. You just really have to go and deep dive.
Absolutely. How important is networking and meeting the so-called right individuals, and how do you increase your network?
So being a part of some type of community network is always very important. And I'm a part of several. And again, that kind of goes back to the earlier comment about, how do you find developers to help you with your product? You got to go to where those people are interested in that type of stuff. So go to a networking event where it's all about finance, right? Eventbrite is a very good resource. Meetup.com is a very good resource because there's always different types of meetups and even on Eventbrite. So utilizing those platforms to search for different networking events or opportunities. You'll go to those events and meet people that are in the same space you're in. And as I said before, it's about research. To me, that's a part of research. Because if Kevin knows about social media and I'm trying to build a social network, I can probably ask Kevin some questions about social media, social marketing, commerce in social media, ads. I can ask him some questions. He might know something.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So let's give a hypothetical. Say you had your own podcast and you wanted to get that off the ground. Like, what would your thought process be to really make it profitable and to kind of popularize it?
Okay. I love that question. That's a very good question. So if I owned a podcast, so instead of Postablur being a social network, you're saying, what if Postablur was a podcast? How would you have approached it, right?
Right.
Okay. So here's the first thing I probably would do. If Postablur was a podcast, I would figure out what would be my main topic, right? What would be the topic that I would want to discuss all the time on this podcast? If it's regarding business, if it's regarding finance, if it's regarding healthcare, it could be regarding sports, right? I would go to the top podcasts that's in my genre and get information about what they're doing that makes them so popular. Like if it's about let's say it's about healthcare. I would go to any and every of the top healthcare podcasts and learn and listen to those podcasts. Then I would do a deep dive into who created those podcasts and what their background is. You know, what did they do before they started their podcast? And so again, this goes back to what I was saying about research and doing your due diligence. And so after doing all of that type of research, then I would kind of try to set my podcast in that same lane of growth. One, I would figure out why my podcast could be different. You know, they might only do Tuesdays at 12 noon. Well, I would base it on some research on Instagram or something. When is the most post being posted on Instagram? Or when are people listening to most videos or reels on Instagram? Do it based on some unique information and then post on those days that align with that unique information. And that then becomes my differentiator. I post on Wednesdays at 12 instead of Tuesdays at 12 because of these reasons. And then instead of just inviting, people that are in the industry, try to invite people that are outside of the industry and ask them questions about healthcare, right? What do you think about healthcare? I know you're in sports, but what do you think about healthcare? Just to get a different take from a different person in a different industry. So that would be a second differentiator, right? I would just, if Postablur was a podcast, I would utilize very different metrics to make my podcast or my business very unique so that my listeners get something that no other podcast could provide.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was some great advice. From what I'm seeing, the audience is loving all your advice. You're doing a great job, man.
Thank
So yeah, earlier before the podcast went live, we kind of talked about was there like an opportunity where small businesses get introduced to bigger businesses? Did you want to elaborate on that, or?
Yeah. So I'm a part of this platform that I found via the platform that I was telling you guys about on mogulmillennial.com. MOGULMILLINIAL. I think that's the right spelling. It's a platform where entrepreneurs that look like me and you can go to find out about grants, different grants, different platforms that give money and pitch opportunities to raise money. And so they had one platform, one program from the Dallas Mavericks. It was called the Dallas Mavs Business Assist, or Dallas MBA. And so they've selected 100 companies, and their goal at the Dallas Mavs Business Assist was to introduce small businesses to the top large companies. So like 2 weeks ago, we met with the top 20 executives at Coke.
Wow.
We also met with the top 20 executives for the Dallas Mavericks. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be meeting with the top executives at TIAA, the insurance company. And so what that platform does is it puts people like me that's just getting started in the room with potential brands that I can partner with to grow my brand. And so to like Joseph's question, that's another way also Joseph from earlier, that's another way also that you could potentially raise funds is by going to networking events where a brand that might be best suited with your brand could give you information about how they came about or how they were successful. And so learning from them gives you the opportunity to meet with them, which gives you the opportunity to talk to them. And so what I try to tell people is before you go and ask somebody for something, you need to know who you asking. Like I'm not just gonna say, "Hey Kevin, can I borrow $100?"
Yeah.
Right? I need to know what Kevin does, to earn money, and then I need to get an assessment of if I ask Kevin for money, does Kevin actually have the money to give it to me? Like what is he doing to make money? Because I don't want to ask him for money and he don't have the money to give it to me, right? Or maybe Kevin can put me in a room with somebody who might have the money that can be given to me. And so, as I said before, it's probably best to not make assumptions about a business, but go and learn more about that business, and then you can find out what that business can help you with and what you can do to partner with them in the future.
Absolutely. So like when those are some pretty big guys. Did you have to like really prepare before you got in the room with them? And did you have an objective in mind, like I want to present this sort of conversation to them, or did you just kind of go with the flow?
So I kind of just went with the flow. One of the things that I had a question, and I'm very direct when I ask questions, especially to big brands. You can't waste their time.
Yeah.
Like one of my first questions was, how does a small business? I'm just now starting. I got a few hundred downloads or whatever. How does a small business like mine, with this one feature or this one function, attract a big major company like yours? And the first thing that they said was kind of like what I'm saying now, which is you have to do your due diligence of what this company does, what they offer, and what they could potentially need. And just straight up ask them that. Like, one of the things I asked Coke, because I had a meeting with Coke. I said, Coke, what do you guys define as success in your business? And guess what the guy with Coke told me? He said, what we define as success is getting our product to first be tested or tasted. And we take that information on the testing or the tasting, and then we assume how many people would buy that product, and then we go and try to see how they would buy it. So their thing is a lot of about testing, because it's a consumer product, right? And so to me, that kind of correlated to, okay, you're building a social network. You need to find out how many people on social media are fed up with their content being utilized, but they're not making money. And so I started to reach out to content creators like, yo, are you on Instagram, but you're not making money? And they're like, yeah, I'm not really making money, but I post every day. I'm like, try Postablur and see if you can make some money on Postablur. Because we have this feature where you can post it blurred, and in order for somebody to reveal it, they can pay to give more likes, and you can make money. And they were like, what? And so to attract a big brand or a big product, you have to know what they need.
Absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. We have another question from the audience. Jason Cavness asks, what's your opinion of Snapchat? I used to be a big fan. I would use the snap filters and geo filtering for my startup. Now I have no idea what's going on with Snapchat.
Yeah, so I think with a lot of companies, especially in the social media space, each one is looking to the other one to try to find out how are they getting users, and they're going back into hiding to then develop a product similar to the other person's product and trying to release a competitive product of that same product. And to to me, that's not true innovation. True innovation to me isn't copycatting. It's going to a segment of your audience and finding out what they need and building something around that need, and then seeing if everybody else like that same solution to their problems. To me, that's true innovation. And I think Snapchat is just, they're stuck just like Instagram and Facebook is stuck in how is TikTok doing this? You know, everybody's trying to copy off of TikTok now. When, 5 years ago, everybody was trying to copy off of Snapchat. And so what I would say to that question, which thank you for that question. That's a very good question. Innovation, in my honest opinion, can't be copied. Right?
Absolutely.
It can't be copied. True innovation has to be researched. That's what I think. I think Snapchat is a great company. I love the filters. I even use the filters similarly to the guy that asked the question. But what you have to understand is they're always trying to innovate. And sometimes they can go away for a few years, a couple years, to try to product match. But if you're popular on that network, all I would say is always utilize where you're most popular to get those consumers of your content to go back to your personal website where you might have a product that you can sell to those people that are consuming you on a social network. Because at the end of the day, Snapchat making billions off of your engagement, but you're not making money. So I always encourage people like you, you need to funnel your audience to a product or a service that you offer where you can make some money off of your growth of that product or that growth of that audience. Because that's what Snapchat is doing you. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I know we're getting past time. So can you tell everybody where to find Postablur and how can people reach out to you?
yeah, so I'm everywhere. I'm on social media, so I'm everywhere. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram at Postablur. Simply the name. Also, just quick information for your users. When I first came up with Postablur, the first thing that I did, I went and secured the intellectual property. I didn't even start building the app until years later, like 4 or 5 years later. The first thing I raised money for was to go and buy all of the assets. So I got all of the .coms, all of the social media, and those things are free. I remember your first guy was asking about investors. Maybe you can tell investors, I first want money to go and buy all of the assets, the intellectual property. After I buy the intellectual property, then I'll go and produce the product and try to get sales. But IP is king.
Yeah.
Because you're first in line. I would even go as far as to go to there is the TESS, which is the Trademark and Patent Office, where you can Google or search, not Google really, but you can search for products that are similar to yours on the Trademark and Patent Office. So again, I'm going to always preach research, and after you get done doing research, do more research. Because if you asking me for money, I want to know that you know what you're talking about.
Yep.
And I want to be able to go and fact check you. And so Postablur is available in the App Store. I would love everybody to download the app and, just reach out to me on social media.
So just so people going to the right place, it's at Postablur. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Post a blur. All one word. Postablur.
Absolutely. Yo, everybody, we'll put the information in our description. But man, we definitely appreciate you for coming through. We would love to have you back. Um, and thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.